question. I definitely want to open it up to the room here very quickly, but I just want to know, on this panel, who here would call themselves a journalist? Okay, so Alastair, why not?
I don't know if it's, okay. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a journalist yet, because I've been at The Guardian for about 3 years, and prior to that was very much just a software engineer. I'm learning about journalism. I feel like I'm some kind of alien observer in the world of journalism in some respects. But yeah, I think I'm kind of trying to find ways to facilitate journalism, but I'm probably more of a facilitator than a journalist myself.
I'm not sure I would agree, actually. I think what you do is journalism, but I think we could discuss that.
The same for me. I'm a computer scientist, and I don't code, but I understand data, and I find data as a convergence point between lots of skills. So that's a new opportunity for journalism, but I'm not a journalist, so that's why.
So what you're seeing is data people coming, or people coming from the code side, from the technology side, journalists coming to the technology side. You're seeing an interesting convergence, both on this panel and in the industry. Brian, why do you think that's important?
Okay. So what we're doing is useful. I mean, golly, I don't know. Why do I think it's important in what context? Like,
why do you think where do you think this is taking the industry? Why do you think this is, what's changing? I mean, that's I think it's been emphatically pointed out. We've been doing data analysis for years, maybe decades. We've been involving data in our journalism for decades. What's different about this, what we're talking about right now?
well, there's mountains of data available at this point, right? You know, I guess one of the rants that I've been getting on, I might be borrowing one from you that our friend Derek Willis of the New York Times gets excited about, is about just the sheer quantities of data that is available to, let's say, the Obama campaign or Philip Morris or somebody, and they have data scientists on staff. They have really, really smart, incredibly well-paid data analysts, quantitative sociologists. There are lots of names for these people, and they're using that data to sell you cigarettes or to get their candidate elected, and we don't know how to do that. I'm not a data scientist. I'm a programmer who knows how to work with databases and is slowly learning how to tell stories. I don't think anybody on this panel would call themselves a data scientist, and I don't think I know a single data scientist who works in journalism. It's a problem. It's a gap, and we have to. We've all gotten up our games, and we've also, as an industry, have to bring in a lot more people that do that sort of work because we're ignorant.
I would add something to that, which is at this conference, Strata, I spoke at last year, which is a data science conference. There was actually a lot of attention paid to what journalists could bring to them, because the one thing I think that flows through everything that we've been talking about today is the ability to find stories, to find a headline. I mean, every time we start a piece, we sit down and before we go any further, we have to know what the headline is. You know, so this is something, I don't know, I was saying to Brian yesterday that we're going to be like the crystal reports of the big data world. But yeah, journalists, I think are increasingly...
That was a joke, by the way.
Yeah, sorry, it was a bad joke.
But enterprise program joke, actually.
I want to add something to that. I mean, I'm going to make a comparison between journalism, what is going on in journalism, and what's going on in science. If you take a look at scientific papers from 20 years ago, you only had, one author or two authors per paper. If you take a look at scientific paper today, you will see that each paper is authored by 16 people. And what that means is that the world is growing more complex. We have more complexity to deal with. And our work as journalists makes sense of that complexity. But for making sense of that complexity, we have to bring together skills from many different areas. That's what's going on right now in the newsrooms. You need programmers, you need data scientists, you need information visualizers and designers and pure journalists, and you have to bring them together and to try to, to make sense of the world for your readers or for your audiences. or help them make sense of the world in some sense by creating tools that will allow them to do that. I think that that's the main difference between the past and the present.
And let me add one more community to that. And I think, Angelica, you mentioned this, the hacktivist community, non-journalists, people who are outside the newsrooms. And I think this is true both of your newsroom, not as much mine, unfortunately. Ben's, absolutely. So maybe you can talk a little bit about how newsrooms need to reach out beyond the four walls of the newsroom.
We are engaging with these communities in the local level in Buenos Aires. I recommend, we go to hackathons. Last Saturday I was in one. I went to 4 or 5 hackathons, Sundays, Saturdays. And if you want to learn, you have to go and try to understand and self-teach yourself. This is very important because who are there are programmers, are data scientists, are people who want to help, but they don't perhaps understand the business or the content you know as journalists. So this is very important to work in teams and to find the other part that you need and ask.
Ben, you guys have done a lot of crowdsourcing projects. You've reached out to the community extensively. Why have you chosen to do that, and what value do you think this brings in particular to your reporting?
Well, for one, it's a lot of fun, which is a good start. But I just think it, for instance, with the neighborhoods project we did, we knew there are no official boundaries. It's a long time disputed thing in the city of Los Angeles. So at the outset, we knew that there would be no right answers. Like it's not like the LA Times could draw the lines and they would be perfect. If we, if that was possible, you might try. But we had the humility, I guess, at the outset to admit that, and that's where bringing in the outside made it, a lot more credible, I think, to our audience, and it resulted in a better product.
So 10 years from now, I'm curious, this is a toss-up question. 10 years from now, what's a newsroom going to look like?
Much
Five years
smaller.
from now.
Much smaller. Yeah, though hopefully leveraging technology in much more efficiently than I do, but in that same department to get stuff done. There's this old maxim that's much maligned in newsrooms: do more with less. We just laid everybody off, but we're going to do more with less. It was parodied by David Simon on The Wire in the season he did there, and it's bullshit. I mean, it's a lie. It's not true. You can't in most cases. But there is one hope in that department, which is through software, technology, open source projects like MISO project, we can lower the barrier and increase our efficiency in how we work with stuff. And that really is one of the few ways you really can do more with what you have, or sometimes hopefully not less. But
Cool. All right, so we have people lined up. Why don't we start over here?
Hi, my name is Rosellen Downey, and my question